Imagine a country where time runs 7 years behind the rest of the world, where coffee was discovered by dancing goats, and where beauty is measured by the size of your belly. Sounds impossible, right? But this place exists, and it's been hiding in plain sight on the African continent for thousands of years. Welcome to Ethiopia, a land so unique that it defies every rule you thought you knew about our planet. This isn't just another travel destination. This is a country that has rewritten history, preserved ancient mysteries, and created traditions so extraordinary that scientists and historians are still trying to understand them. From churches carved entirely out of solid rock to tribes that turn bottle caps into crowns. From marathon runners who conquered the world barefoot to a calendar system that will make you 7 years younger the moment you arrive. Ethiopia is about to challenge everything you believe about culture, time, and human civilization itself. By the end of this journey, you'll discover why Ethiopia stands as the most unique country on Earth, a place where the impossible becomes everyday reality and where ancient traditions dance with modern miracles. Where are you watching from? Now let's dive into the first mind-blowing fact that will change how you see this incredible nation forever. Number 15. The land that time forgot. Ethiopia's mysterious calendar system. Have you ever wished you could turn back the clock and be younger again? What if I told you that you could instantly become 7 years and 8 months younger just by boarding a plane? While the entire world is living in 2025, Ethiopia is peacefully enjoying the year 2017. And this isn't science fiction or some tourist gimmick. This is real life in one of the most fascinating countries on our planet. The Ethiopian calendar, also known as the Coptic calendar, is a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian calendar and has been in continuous use since 525 AD. That's over 1,500 years of refusing to follow the rest of the world's timekeeping system, and Ethiopians couldn't be prouder of it. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Ethiopian calendar doesn't just run 7 years behind, it also has 13 months instead of 12. Yes, you heard that correctly. 13 months. The first 12 months each have exactly 30 days, and the 13th month, called Pagum, has only 5 or 6 days, depending on whether it's a leap year. This means that New Year's Day in Ethiopia doesn't fall on January 1st like the Gregorian calendar used by most of the world. Instead, Ethiopians celebrate their new year on September 11th, which is called Enkutatash, meaning the gift of jewels. Legend has it that when the Queen of Sheba returned from her visit to King Solomon in Jerusalem, her chiefs welcomed her by replenishing her treasury with jewels, and this happened to fall on the first day of the new year. But wait, the calendar isn't the only thing that's different about time in Ethiopia. Ethiopians also use a 12-hour clock system that will completely mess with your mind. Unlike the 24-hour system used in most countries, Ethiopia's clock starts at a completely different point. The first hour of the day begins at sunrise, which is around 6 a.m. by Western standards, and sunset is considered the 12th hour. After that, the clock resets and counts from 1 to 12 again until the next sunrise. So, if an Ethiopian friend invites you to meet at 3 o'clock, you'd better clarify whether they mean 3 o'clock Ethiopian time or Western time, because 3 o'clock Ethiopian time could actually be 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. by your watch. This has led to some hilarious and frustrating mix-ups for tourists and international business people trying to schedule meetings in Ethiopia. Imagine showing up for a dinner reservation 12 hours early or missing your flight because you thought you had plenty of time. Despite the obvious challenges this creates for international coordination, Ethiopians have maintained their unique timekeeping system with pride and determination. From religious ceremonies that follow ancient schedules to agricultural calendars that dictate planting and harvest times, from festival celebrations to the way people calculate their own ages, everything in Ethiopia adheres to this distinctive system. Schools operate on Ethiopian time, government offices schedule their hours according to the traditional clock, and even modern businesses often list 2 different times on their signs, one for Ethiopians and one for foreigners. But why has Ethiopia kept this system when it would be so much easier to just adopt the Gregorian calendar like everyone else? The answer lies in the deep connection Ethiopians feel to their history and their identity as a nation that has never been colonized. This calendar isn't just a way of measuring time, it's a statement of independence, a daily reminder that Ethiopia has always walked its own path. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian denominations in the world, plays a crucial role in preserving this tradition, as the calendar is intimately tied to religious observances and holy days that have been celebrated the same way for millennia. For visitors, this time difference creates a surreal experience that goes beyond just adjusting your watch. When you land in Addis Ababa and realize you've just traveled back in time 7 years, it forces you to confront how arbitrary our modern conventions really are. Who decided that the year 2025 is the correct year? Why do we accept that midnight is the start of a new day rather than sunrise? Ethiopia reminds us that these are human constructs, not universal laws, and that different civilizations can organize time in completely different ways and function perfectly well. Scientists and historians have studied the Ethiopian calendar extensively, and what they've found is fascinating. The calendar is actually more closely aligned with the solar year than the Gregorian calendar in some respects, and its mathematical precision reflects the advanced astronomical knowledge of ancient civilizations. The calculation of leap years, the division of months, and the intercalation system all demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics that existed thousands of years before modern astronomy. So the next time someone tells you that Ethiopia is behind the times, you can smile and tell them that's exactly the point. Ethiopia has chosen to preserve its own measurement of time as a living connection to its ancient past. And in doing so, it offers the rest of us a glimpse into how different human civilization could have been if history had taken a different turn. Number 14, the country where surnames don't exist. In almost every country on Earth, your name tells a story about your family lineage. Your surname connects you to generations of ancestors, marking you as part of a family tree that stretches back through time. But in Ethiopia, this entire concept simply doesn't exist. Ethiopians don't have surnames, and once you understand their naming system, you'll realize it's actually more logical and meaningful than the one most of us use. Instead of passing down a family name from generation to generation, Ethiopians use a beautifully simple system where every person's name consists of their given name followed by their father's given name. So, if a man named Tekle has a son named Amare, the son's full name would be Amare Tekle. If Amare then has a daughter named Tigist, her full name would be Tigist Amare. Notice what's happening here? Each generation creates a new combination, and every person's name tells you exactly who their father is, creating a verbal family tree that's easy to trace. This means that siblings will all share the same second name because they share the same father, but cousins will have different second names because their fathers are different people. If you meet two people who appear to be from the same family but have completely different last names, don't be confused. They might well be brother and sister. The system can be extended even further in formal situations. Some Ethiopians use 3 names, adding their grandfather's name as a third element, and in very formal contexts or for historical records, you might even see 4 names, including a great-grandfather. This creates a beautiful chain of male lineage that can be traced back through the spoken name itself. But here's where it gets even more interesting and more progressive than many Western naming systems. Ethiopian women never change their names when they get married. A woman keeps the same name she was born with throughout her entire life, maintaining her connection to her own father rather than adopting her husband's identity. In a world where women in many cultures are still expected to give up their birth names and take their husband's surnames, Ethiopia has been doing the opposite for thousands of years. Think about the practical implications of this system. In Ethiopia, you can never assume that 2 people are related just because they share a last name, because there are no last names in the traditional sense. Conversely, you can't assume people aren't related just because their second names are different. A woman named Marta Haile and a man named Johannes Gebra could be full biological siblings, both children of a man named Haley who later changed his name, or they could be completely unrelated. The only way to know is to ask. This naming system also means that alphabetical organization works completely differently in Ethiopia. In Western countries, we alphabetize by surname, so John Smith comes before Jane Williams. But in Ethiopia, people are alphabetized by their first given name, because that's the only name that's truly theirs. Phone books, class rosters, government records, all of them list people by their given names first. For foreigners working in Ethiopia, this takes some getting used to. International organizations operating in the country often struggle with database systems designed for Western naming conventions. Passport applications, visa forms, and airline reservations all have to navigate the confusion between Ethiopian naming customs and the expectations of foreign bureaucracies that insist on having a first name and a last name in separate fields. Many Ethiopians traveling abroad are forced to awkwardly split their name in ways that don't reflect their actual identity, treating their father's name as if it were a family surname when it really isn't. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this naming system is how it honors both continuity and individuality. Every Ethiopian carries their father's name with them, creating an unbroken verbal chain that connects each generation to the one before. At the same time, because these combinations are constantly changing, each person's name is unique to them, not a mass-produced family label shared by hundreds or thousands of people. In Ethiopia, your name isn't just an identifier or a family brand, it's a personal biography, a genealogical record, and a living connection to your ancestors all rolled into one. It tells anyone who knows how to listen exactly where you came from and who brought you into this world, and it does so without requiring women to erase their own identities in service of their husbands. Number 13, the sacred mountains where women have been banned for over 1,000 years. In our modern world, we like to think that gender equality has progressed everywhere, that ancient restrictions on women's movement and access have been swept away by enlightenment and social progress. But in Ethiopia, there's a place where time has stood absolutely still on this issue. A holy site so committed to its ancient rules that no woman, not even female animals, has been allowed to enter for more than a millennium. Welcome to the monastery system of Mount Athos, Ethiopia's most mysterious and strictly guarded religious complex. Founded in the 9th century, this mountain contains around 20 monasteries where over 2,000 monks live in complete isolation from the outside world, following rules so strict and uncompromising that they seem to belong to a different era entirely. The prohibition on women isn't casual or symbolic. It's absolute and has been enforced without exception for over 1,000 years. No woman has set foot on this holy ground since the monasteries were established, and if the monks have their way, no woman ever will. But it's not just human women who are banned. Female animals of any species are also prohibited from entering the monastery grounds. No cows, no hens, no female dogs or cats. Even female insects, if they could somehow be identified and excluded, would presumably fall under the ban. The monks believe that the complete absence of female energy is necessary to maintain the spiritual purity and focus required for their religious devotions, and they've structured their entire world around this principle. To even get into these monasteries as a male visitor requires navigating a deliberately difficult process. You can't just walk through a door or follow a path. Male visitors must climb high walls, scaling the rocky surfaces with whatever handholds they can find, and even then, entry is only granted if the monks decide to permit it. The monks don't have regular visiting hours or welcome tourists with open arms. Each monastery makes its own decisions about whether to allow outsiders at all, and many prefer to remain completely isolated, refusing entry to everyone regardless of gender. Inside these hidden sanctuaries, the monks live according to rules that have remained unchanged since medieval times. They spend their days in prayer, meditation, manual labor, and the study of ancient religious texts. They eat simple vegetarian meals, wake before dawn for religious services, and dedicate their lives entirely to spiritual pursuits without any of the distractions or comforts of modern life. Many of the monasteries lack electricity, running water, or any other modern conveniences. The monks draw water from wells, grow their own food, and make their own clothes, living exactly as their predecessors did hundreds of years ago. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Despite being so isolated and seemingly cut off from intellectual life, These monasteries are home to one of the most important collections of ancient manuscripts in the entire world. Inside these stone walls, protected from wars, invasions, colonization, and the passage of time itself, the monks have preserved thousands of religious texts, historical documents, illuminated manuscripts, and ancient books that exist nowhere else on Earth. Some of these manuscripts date back to the earliest days of Christianity in Ethiopia, making them over 1,500 years old. They contain Gospels written in Ge'ez, the ancient Ethiopian language that's no longer spoken in daily life but is still used in religious ceremonies. They include beautifully illustrated biblical stories with artwork that reflects Ethiopia's unique Christian traditions. They preserve historical records of Ethiopian kingdoms, royal genealogies, and accounts of events that would otherwise be lost to history. Scholars and historians from around the world have long been fascinated by these hidden libraries, but gaining access to study them is incredibly difficult. The monks are protective of their treasures and skeptical of outsiders who want to examine, photograph, or analyze the manuscripts. Negotiations to study the texts can take years, and even when permission is granted, researchers must work under strict supervision and follow rules that limit what they can see and how they can document it. The irony isn't lost on anyone that some of the world's most valuable historical and religious documents are locked away in monasteries that won't allow half of humanity through the door. Female scholars, no matter how qualified or respected in their fields, are completely excluded from directly accessing these materials. They must rely on male colleagues to examine the manuscripts on their behalf, or wait for rare opportunities when texts are temporarily moved to locations where women can study them. Some people view this thousand-year ban on women as a fascinating window into how religious communities functioned in medieval times, a living museum of ancient practices that have somehow survived into the modern era. Others see it as an unjust and outdated form of discrimination that should be challenged and changed. The Ethiopian government has largely chosen not to interfere, respecting the monasteries' autonomy and their importance as religious and cultural heritage sites, even when their practices conflict with contemporary values about gender equality. The monks themselves are unmoved by external criticism. They see their way of life not as discriminatory, but as a sacred duty, a spiritual discipline that requires complete separation from anything they believe might distract from their religious focus. To them, the presence of women wouldn't just be a minor disruption, it would fundamentally compromise the entire purpose of the monastery. They point to centuries of unbroken tradition and to their remarkable preservation of ancient knowledge as evidence that their system works exactly as intended. For travelers curious about this mysterious place, the question becomes whether it's possible to respect cultural and religious traditions while also questioning practices that seem unjust by modern standards. Can we appreciate the historical significance and spiritual dedication of these monks while still acknowledging that their exclusion of women is problematic? Or must we choose between cultural relativism and universal principles of equality? Ethiopia's forbidden monasteries force us to confront these questions without easy answers. Number 12. The tribe where a big belly makes you the most handsome man alive. We've all been told that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But what if the beholder's eye sees beauty in ways that completely contradict everything your culture taught you? In Ethiopia's Omo Valley, the Body tribe has created a beauty standard so unique and unexpected that it challenges our most basic assumptions about attractiveness, health, and desirability. In the Body tribe, the bigger your belly, the more handsome you are considered. And this isn't just a casual preference or a minor cultural quirk. It's the centerpiece of their most important annual celebration, a festival called Ka'el that determines which young man will earn the title of the most attractive in the entire tribe. Every year, to celebrate the new year, unmarried body men face a challenge that would seem bizarre or even dangerous to outsiders. For 6 months leading up to the Ka'el festival, selected young men must follow an extreme diet designed specifically to make them gain as much weight as possible and develop the largest belly they can achieve. The diet consists primarily of fresh cow's blood mixed with milk, both drawn from the tribe's cattle, which are the center of body life and culture. The young men who are chosen to compete are given special treatment during these 6 months. They're excused from their normal responsibilities of herding cattle and working in the fields. Instead, they spend their days in specially built huts, resting and consuming enormous quantities of blood and milk. The women of the tribe, especially the mothers and sisters of the competitors, take on the responsibility of feeding the men, carefully preparing the blood and milk mixture and encouraging them to drink as much as possible. It's considered an honor for a family to have a son competing in the Ka'el festival, and everyone works together to help their candidate achieve the biggest possible belly. For the young men themselves, becoming the man with the largest belly is a dream they've held since childhood. Body boys grow up watching the Ka'el festival and imagining themselves as the winner, standing before the entire tribe and being celebrated as the embodiment of beauty and attractiveness. The competition shapes their aspirations and their sense of what it means to become a successful adult man in their society. When the day of the festival finally arrives, the atmosphere is electric with excitement. The men who have been preparing for 6 months emerge from their huts, their bodies transformed by the intentional weight gain. They cover themselves in a mixture of clay and ash, creating striking patterns on their skin that make them look mysterious and otherworldly. The clay isn't just decorative. It's part of the ritual transformation that marks these men as special participants in a sacred tradition. Then comes the moment of judgment. The men parade before the assembled tribe, displaying their enlarged bellies with pride. The community evaluates each competitor, comparing the size and shape of their stomachs, and ultimately selects a winner. The man judged to have the biggest and best belly is crowned the most attractive man in the tribe for that year, earning enormous prestige and becoming highly desirable to unmarried women looking for a husband. But here's what makes this tradition even more fascinating when you dig deeper. The Ka'el festival isn't really about promoting obesity or celebrating unhealthy eating habits in the way it might seem to outsiders. Instead, it's a demonstration of wealth, family support, and the tribe's relationship with their cattle. Cattle are the most valuable resource in Body society, representing wealth, status, and survival. The ability to feed a young man blood and milk for 6 months without compromising the health of the herd shows that his family is prosperous and skilled at managing their resources. In this context, the big belly becomes a symbol of abundance and success rather than simply a physical feature. The festival also serves important social functions beyond just selecting the most attractive man. It's a time when the entire tribe gathers together, strengthening community bonds and passing traditions from one generation to the next. Young boys watch and learn what will be expected of them in the future. Unmarried women have the opportunity to evaluate potential husbands, looking not just at the size of their bellies, but at the strength of their families and their standing in the community. Elders oversee the proceedings, ensuring that the ancient customs are followed correctly and that the spiritual significance of the festival is maintained. After the festival concludes and a winner is declared, the men who participated gradually return to normal eating patterns, and their bellies shrink back down over time. The winner enjoys his moment of glory, but life in the tribe goes on with its usual rhythms of cattle herding, agriculture, and daily survival. The young man who was celebrated as the most beautiful will go back to the same work as everyone else, though he'll carry the honor and the memory of his victory for the rest of his life. From an outsider's perspective, the Ka'el festival might seem strange or even concerning, especially given modern awareness of health issues related to obesity and rapid weight gain. Medical professionals might worry about the effects of such an extreme diet on the body, and nutritionists might question the safety of consuming such large quantities of blood and milk over 6 months. But these concerns reflect our own cultural values and priorities, which may not apply in the context of Body life. For the Body people, the festival works because it's embedded in a broader system of meaning that connects physical appearance to family prosperity, cultural identity, and spiritual beliefs. What looks like a dangerous beauty contest to us is actually a complex social ritual that reinforces the values most important to the tribe's survival and cohesion. The Ka'el festival reminds us that beauty standards are not universal truths, but cultural constructions that reflect what each society values most deeply. In the modern Western world, we've elevated thinness and muscular definition as ideals of attractiveness, creating industries worth billions of dollars dedicated to helping people achieve these body types. We've normalized extreme dieting, intense exercise regimens, and even surgical interventions in pursuit of the perfect body as defined by our culture. When we look at the body tribe celebrating big bellies, we're really seeing a mirror that reflects our own equally constructed and equally arbitrary beauty standards back at us. The body aren't strange for celebrating large stomachs. We're all participants in cultural systems that tell us what bodies are valuable and which ones aren't. And every one of these systems is ultimately a human invention rather than an objective truth. Number 11. How dancing goats gave the world its favorite beverage. Every morning, millions of people around the world begin their day the same way, with a cup of coffee. That familiar aroma, that first sip, that gradual awakening of the mind and body. It's become so universal that we rarely stop to think about where this magical beverage came from. The answer takes us back to Ethiopia, to the highlands where coffee plants grow wild, and to a legend involving a very observant shepherd and his unusually energetic goats. According to Ethiopian tradition, coffee was discovered about 1,000 years ago by a young goat herder named Kaldi. Like most legends, the details vary depending on who's telling the story, but the core remains the same. Kaldi noticed that his goats were behaving strangely after eating the red berries from a particular type of shrub. Instead of their usual calm grazing, the goats were jumping around with unusual energy, almost as if they were dancing. They were more alert, more active, and seemed to have boundless enthusiasm. Being a curious young man, Kaldi decided to try some of the berries himself. The effect was immediate and remarkable. He felt more awake, more energized, more capable of handling the long hours of watching over his herd. His days of shepherding became significantly more effective because he could stay alert and focused for longer periods. Excited by this discovery, Kaldi brought the berries to a local monastery to share his find with the monks. The reaction he received wasn't quite what he expected. The head monk looked at the berries, listened to Kaldi's story about dancing goats and increased energy, and declared the berries to be the work of the devil. To demonstrate his rejection of this suspicious fruit, the monk threw the berries into a fire. But then something unexpected happened. As the berries burned, they released an aroma so rich, so compelling, so absolutely intoxicating that everyone present stopped what they were doing and turned toward the fire. The smell of roasting coffee beans was unlike anything they had ever experienced. The monks quickly raked the roasted beans from the fire, ground them up, and dissolved them in hot water to preserve the essence of that incredible aroma. When they drank the resulting liquid, they discovered that the energizing effect was even stronger than eating the raw berries, and thus coffee as we know it was born. Whether or not this story is literally true doesn't really matter. What matters is that Ethiopia is genuinely the birthplace of coffee, and not just in legend, but in botanical fact. Coffee Arabica, the species that accounts for about 70% of the world's coffee production, is indigenous to the Ethiopian highlands. Nowhere else on Earth did coffee evolve naturally. Every coffee plant growing anywhere else in the world, from Colombia to Vietnam, from Brazil to Indonesia, is ultimately descended from plants that originated in Ethiopia. For Ethiopians, coffee isn't just a beverage, it's a central pillar of their culture and daily life. The Ethiopian coffee ceremony is one of the most important social rituals in the country, a practice that brings families and communities together and that follows traditions passed down through countless generations. Every morning in homes across Ethiopia, women prepare coffee in a process that can take 2 to 3 hours, and that transforms coffee making from a quick task into a meditative ritual. The ceremony begins with the roasting of green coffee beans on a flat pan over an open fire or charcoal brazier. As the beans roast, frankincense or other incense is burned, filling the air with layers of aroma that combine with the smell of roasting coffee. The person preparing the coffee, traditionally the woman of the household, carefully monitors the beans as they turn from green to brown to the perfect shade of roasted darkness. Once roasted, the beans are ground by hand using a mortar and pestle, a rhythmic pounding that becomes its own form of meditation. The ground coffee is then brewed in a special clay pot called a jebena, which has a round bottom, a long, narrow neck, and a small spout. The jebena is filled with water and placed over the fire until the coffee boils and the room fills with its rich aroma. The coffee is served in small cups without handles, often accompanied by popcorn or other snacks. The ceremony involves 3 rounds of coffee, each with its own name and significance. The first round, called a bowl, is the strongest. The second round, tona, is slightly weaker. The third round, baraka, which means blessing, is the weakest but is considered the most important because it's believed to carry spiritual significance. To be invited to someone's home for a coffee ceremony is a great honor, and refusing the invitation or leaving before all 3 rounds are completed is considered deeply disrespectful. This isn't just about drinking coffee, it's about community, conversation, connection, and the sharing of time and attention in an increasingly fast-paced world. Through the coffee ceremony, Ethiopians maintain a daily practice of slowing down, gathering together, and prioritizing relationships over efficiency. In a world where coffee has been reduced to a drive-through transaction or a pod popped into a machine, Ethiopia reminds us that coffee can be so much more than just a source of caffeine. It can be a ritual that structures the day, a reason to gather with others, a connection to ancient traditions, and a moment of beauty and intentionality in the midst of ordinary life. So the next time you drink your morning coffee, take a moment to thank those dancing goats in the Ethiopian highlands. Because without them, and without the curious shepherd who paid attention to their unusual behavior, our entire world would be a very different and probably much sleepier place.